Part 5. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi Y. Chapter 41. Hearing this, Ye Yang also covered his waist, put his head over his head and comforted him dryly with a weird expression. Yes, brother Chiang, please take it easy. Oh Ye Chiang lay back in confusion and responded subconsciously with a dry mouth. In the end, Leng Xiao calmly changed the subject and asked about Ye Chiang's injury, ending the strange atmosphere that left the men present speechless. Ye Chiang also breathed a sigh of relief and gave Leng Xiao a grateful look. Then he lay on the truck bed and scratched his head and said, I don't know who attacked me. It was my turn to water the water yesterday. When I was patrolling the orchard, I noticed that there seemed to be a lot less fruit on the trees. I thought it was a fruit thief like a bird that had eaten it, so I planned to keep vigil at night to see if I could catch it. But I kept watch all night and found nothing. It wasn't until early this morning that there was any movement from the depths of the woods. I tried to get there but was attacked before I even got close. Something cold like a blade brushed against me. My waist, and when I was alert and wanted to dodge, someone knocked me out with a sap from behind. Does that mean you didn't even see your attacker? Ye Chiang shook his head in annoyance. No. But I heard someone talking. They were all rough male voices. There were no less than 3 people cursing. I couldn't hear exactly what they said. I just felt that their tempers seemed not to be very good. Ye Chiang frowned, and his face became more solemn and obscure. It seemed that these people who sneaked in secretly were not easy to get along with. He glanced at the little star master with calm eyes and couldn't tell whether she was confident or ignorant. But seeing that she had no intention of speaking proactively, I could only put the matter aside for the time being. He decided with a straight face, let's go back to the village first. Ye Yang still wanted to arrest people, so he asked dissatisfiedly, but what about those vegetable thieves? We are considering this matter in the long term. The most important thing now is to send the strong boy back to rest first, and then strengthen the protection around our village. And Ye also quickly grabbed Ye Yang and smiled and said to 11Ni, yes, the safety of Chiang boy and ourselves is more important. Uncle Ye Chiang is the one who has considered it carefully. Boy Yang, don't be stubborn about this matter. You have to listen to your grandpa. Yes, his old man has eaten more salt than you have drank water, so he must have a reason for saying that. Ye Yang looked up and saw the old man's serious expression that could not be refuted, so he could only give up in frustration. The agricultural cultivator chugs toward the village carrying a car full of people. The closer they got to the village, the thicker the atmosphere of life became, and they could hear the sounds of chickens and ducks chirping clack, clack, quack, 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 quack in their ears. In the fields on both sides, star citizens were bent over in groups of 2s and 3s, weeding and watering the fields. After hearing the sound, they all happily straightened up and greeted Ye Chiang. Hey, Lao Chiang is back. Look, Lao Chiang has brought 5 new faces. Hey, isn't that the strong boy lying there? What's wrong with the strong boy? There's so much blood on his body. The people working in the fields immediately stopped watering and stopped working, and ran over anxiously. The 2 children playing at the entrance of the village shouted in a panic, Uncle Quan, it's not good, brother Ye Chiang is injured, come here quickly. After a while, the agricultural cultivator was surrounded by a group of old and young people. Bai Qian Chun glanced around calmly, feeling worried about the future of Muyuan Star. There are not many star citizens around here, only about 20, but the old men and women who are about the same age as Ye Chiang account for the largest proportion of the people. There are only 5 young and strong ones, 2 women and 3 men in their prime. One of the men was still Lame. Not even young people like Ye Yang and Leng Xiao could be seen, only a frowning, pretty girl about the same age as him beside the car. There are only 2 children left, a boy, about 12 or 13 years old, and a little girl, about 7 or 8 years old. Apart from this, there is no one else. If all the star citizens in the village are here, then Bai Qianshun will have to mourn for himself. With these 3 melons and 2 dates, he wants to make the entire Muyuan star Xiong well, then this task is too difficult. When the star citizens gathered around Ye Qiang and expressed their nervous concern, Bai Qianshun poked Ye Yang next to him with her elbow and asked in a low voice, "Are all the star citizens on Muyuan planet here?" Ye Yang smiled and showed 2 small tiger teeth, "No." Bai Qianshun's eyes lit up, but she heard Ye Yang continue to say, "There is still Grandpa Mizu who hasn't come out. He is a strange old man. He usually likes to stay at home, playing with his bottles and jars, and mixing potions. In addition to serving, he rarely goes out in those 2 fields, and by this time today he should have finished his work and gone home." Bai Qianshun. After a minute of chattering in his ears, Ye Qin impatiently waved away these old guys and asked them to go back to work. He pointed at Ye Yang and Leng Xiao and helped Ye Qiang go to Mi Zhu's place for another check. Then he drove Aunt Ye's family of 3 out of the car, who was pulling Bai Qianshun to speak enthusiastically. After solving the problem 3 times, 5 times, and 2 times, he drove the remaining 2 people, Bai Qianshun and Du Li, to continue driving forward. The multi-person bus now directly became a special bus for the 2 of them. A mouthful of hot air poured into his mouth. Du Li, who was originally looking at the smiling faces of the star people, became confused. After looking at each other with Bai Qianshun for a while, he couldn't help but put his head in and asked, "Old man, are you going to bring someone with you? Where are we going?" "Star-Lord's mansion." Mr. Ye Qin's voice floated in the wind, and Du Li almost ignored him no matter how hard he tried. He looked like he was concentrating on driving seriously. The warm breeze blew slowly, and the originally green and lively field turned into a field that had been reclaimed and planted with seedlings. Although it was not thickly green, it was still full of vitality. Bai Qianshun ignored Du Li, who looked confused and hesitant to speak. He sighed and continued to observe the scenery along the road. After climbing another hill, a large dilapidated manor appeared in front of them. It is located on a flat land on the lower hillside. The entire manor has a gloomy tone. From a distance, it seems to be shrouded in a gray veil, like a terrifying beginning. The car screeched to a stop at the gate of the manor. The Star-Lord's mansion has arrived. Bai Qianshun got out of the car Chongshan Ruliu, and Du Li picked up his things in a panic and followed him. Seeing this, Mr. Ye Qin's stern face looked better. He raised his drooped eyelids, glanced at them lightly from the driver's seat, and said with a sullen face, "We don't have any vacant houses in the village, so you can just go there, stay in the Star-Lord's mansion. Only the Star-Lord has the authority to enter here. The previous Star-Lord upgraded the defense here to the highest level, making it safer than our village." Then he paused for a moment, then added as if reluctantly, "This is not far from our village. If you need anything, you can come to the village to find me." Bai Qianshun, the world is tough and there is a serious shortage of labor force. Now, what should she do to save Mu Yuan? The difficulty of infrastructure construction in Muyuan Star is SSS+. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 42. After giving the instructions, the old man drove the car in a swerving turn and suddenly returned along the original road along the field ridge, leaving only dust rolling up on the ground. Bai Qianshun and Du Li didn't even have time to say a word. Half of the word "thank you" was floating in the wind, and I wonder if it reached Ye Qin's ears. Du Li watched the car leave with a confused look on his face, always feeling like he couldn't get up and get out. He turned his head to look at Bai Qianshun dejectedly. "Boss, I think that old man doesn't like us very much." "No, he doesn't like you very much." Bai Qianshun picked up the basket, not unhappy, but glanced at him with a chuckle. "Really, but I think he has tried very hard to restrain himself from taking his anger towards the previous Star Master on me. Du Li was shocked. What? He just ignored the two of us in front of the Star citizens and didn't immediately introduce my identity to them just to protect me. Bai Qianchun raised her eyebrows in a good mood, with a bright smile in her bright eyes. Oh, he is a very cute old man. Moreover, he is also Ye Yang's grandfather in this life. He loves the house and the bird. Bai Qianchun also has a good impression of Ye Qin. Du Li, why didn't he see how cute that thin, fierce, and stern-faced old man was? I really can't understand the boss's thoughts anymore. After a casual conversation, the two of them raised their eyes to observe the Star-Lord's mansion in front of them, which was the somewhat eerie manor they had just looked at from a distance. They were standing outside a large hollow iron door inlaid with rose patterns. The iron fence on the door seemed to have not been rust-proofed. The railings were full of rust, and there were a few small black nails the size of fingernails lying on them. Reptiles, they seemed to be gnawing at the rust with their large pincers. A sense of decadence and desolation arises spontaneously. It was so dilapidated at the beginning, but it was even more tragic inside. After Bai Qianchun used the Star Master identity certificate given to her by the Empire, she successfully passed the verification and entered the manor. The large iron door creaked and made a heavy sound, and the door opened automatically under the power of the remaining energy. The dilapidated scene inside also caught their eyes. The stones on the marble floor were cracked, half of the east side of the courtyard wall collapsed, the west side wall leaked into a sieve, and bricks and tiles were scattered all over the front yard. The trees on both sides were all withered, some had been uprooted, and some had broken trunks. The fountain in the center of the front yard was not spared either. Not only did the water dry up, the entire pool also cracked. Pieces of pebbles inlaid in it burst out and scattered randomly on the surrounding ground. They were covered with a layer of dust, and it looked like gloomy. Bai Qianchun sullenly avoided the cracks in the stones on the ground and continued walking inside. The rockery collapsed, the water dried up, and the small bridge broke. The pavilions, stone steps, and corridors were all spared. There were broken walls and ruins everywhere, and no one was intact. To sum up, this manor, which is similar to a combination of a Soviet-style garden and a European castle, looks nondescript, and the damage inside is more serious than the city she saw before. The whole place has experienced severe trauma after hundreds of years of disasters. The ruins are so brittle that they can collapse a pavilion with just one kick. Looking at the red tiles on the eaves, they seem to have faded in the sun and turned into gray tiles. Bai Qianchun seriously suspected that the previous Star Master was deceived. He had never seen red tiles fade. After entering the room of the main building and seeing the cracked and faded walls and the rotten and insect-eaten furniture, Bai Qianchun became even more convinced of this. This manor is just a shoddy project with a shiny surface, and the construction team contracted to build it is definitely a shady businessman, shoddy and shoddy. After walking around, Bai Qianchun's face became darker and darker, and the air conditioning on her body continued to surge. How stupid was the previous Star Master to believe that the engineering team was his business, but this black-hearted tofu slag project was now her property, then this matter must not be forgotten. This black-hearted engineering team must be found and compensated. Du Li followed her cautiously, turning his head nervously and looking around. From the moment he walked into this dilapidated old house that resembled a haunted house, he felt the cold wind blowing at his back, causing goosebumps to appear on his skin. A crisp snapping sound appeared suddenly in the eerily silent room. He snarled like a frightened cat, with all the hairs on his body standing on end. He rushed to Bai Qianchun's side, with a pale face and said tremblingly, "Big brother, why don't we go out? Look at this house, it's really unsafe to go up there and it looks like it's going to collapse at any moment." Bai Qianchun stared at the rusty vault door in front, glanced sideways at him with her lips pursed, and asked quietly, "Are you scared?" Du Li's eyes wandered, and he forced a smile. Who is afraid? How can I, a manly man, be afraid of ghosts? Oh, then go ahead. Then Bai Qianchun raised his foot and kicked. With a loud bang, the door of the vault was kicked down, and the whole house seemed to shake. Du Le screamed again and flew to the corner at a life-or-death speed, trembling. Bai Qianchun looked at him like he was looking at a fool, then waved away the dust raised around him, and squinted into the vault, but there was nothing in the huge vault, only dust on the floor. Her face darkened, she turned around with a sullen face and walked towards the basement. She violently kicked the door open again, but there was still nothing inside. It was empty. It was all empty. Du Le cautiously stuck his head out and took a look, with an expression that was indeed true. He cautiously turned his head and glanced at Bai Qianchun again, and whispered, I heard that Wang Zi, the previous lord of Muyuan Star, was a miser. All valuable things would be carried around in space. For this reason, he encountered interstellar pirates that year. After the death, the Empire even sent troops to search. Bai Qianchun's dark eyes looked towards him coldly. How's it going? Did you find it? Du Le quickly shook his head. No, the group of interstellar pirates disappeared without a trace. Wang Zi's body was also gone, and the large amount of wealth he carried was also missing. Bai Qianchun's face turned even darker. No wonder this room seemed to have been ransacked by Joe Poppy. From top to bottom, there was nothing valuable inside or outside. There wasn't even a robot. Damn, that was all short-lived. The ghost took it away. Du Le stretched out his tentative little feet and looked at her eagerly. Then can we go out now? Bai Qianchun glared at him and said, get out. Great. Du Le grinned, straightened up happily, and then jumped towards the door. How can one not keep his shoes wet when he often walks by the river? Even if the boss is a powerful person, this dilapidated house is also a dangerous place. He is really afraid that the boss will overturn this time. But it turns out that the boss is still the boss, and she has a tight grip on time. As soon as she slowly walked out of the door, the house collapsed with a loud bang. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 43. As the huge wave of dust kicked up by the collapse of the house dispersed, the entire building tilted to the left, the window sills and stone pillars were all collapsed, and the broken scene of cracked bricks and glass scattered on the ground also appeared in their field of vision. Middle. The word poor in capital letters hit Bai Qianchun on the forehead with a bang. Her face was gloomy, and her eyes were rolling and dark. The life in this interstellar world was getting worse day by day. She now seriously doubted that her decision to return to Muyuan Star first instead of going to the Bai family to grab the property was wrong. In the dream, except for being expelled and exiled to a garbage star before her death, the original body was in a miserable state. She lived a life of lavish spending and luxury. Look at her again. But now there is no turning back. The only choice I have made is to bite the bullet and continue to persevere. Hey, forget it. In the ancient martial arts world where there were wars and disputes in her previous life, and bones everywhere, it was not like she had never lived in a haunted house. After Bai Qianchun took a deep breath, she turned around with a gloomy face and walked towards the back of the house. Du Le shook his body, regained consciousness from the collapsed building in front of him, and hurried to catch up. Hey, boss, where are we going? Go to the 2 utility rooms at the back, which look the simplest and simplest. That's where we'll stay at night. Du Le's face collapsed. We really live in this manor that looks like a large haunted house. Bai Qianchun, who was leading the way, raised his eyebrows and said, then where do you want to live? Du Le hesitated. We can stay overnight in the village. Bai Qianchun, who had already arrived at the place, was not in a hurry to go in. She raised her hand and knocked on the wall first, and slowly raised the corners of her mouth. Then she turned to look at Du Le behind her, who was full of resentment and resistance like a little daughter-in-law, and sneered. "Don't worry, this place is very solid, and the roof won't collapse while you're sleeping at night. Du Le, speaking of which, you may not believe it." He was so distracted just now that he didn't think of it at all. Now he is even more scared. How can he break it? With a creak, the door of the utility room was pushed open, and a choking dust suddenly surged inside. Bai Jianchun narrowed her eyes and raised her hand to wave, and then looked around. This should be the place where the workers in the manor live. There are various farm tools in the room. There is also a small bed, a broken wooden cabinet, and a folding wooden table in the corner against the wall. Although they are all made of wood, the material is not very good, but it is much more solid than the flashy furniture in the main building. Although it was covered with dust, it was not moth-eaten or rotten. There was nothing wrong with it except that it was a little dirty. This once again proves how unscrupulous the unscrupulous businessman responsible for the main house furniture is. The other utility room also had the same layout and similar furnishings, but there was an extra mirror. Therefore, the one with the mirror belonged to Bai Jianchun, and the other one was reserved for Du Le. Seeing that Bai Jianchun had no intention of changing his mind, Du Le could only stay with him. It was not completely dark yet, and there was still sunlight at 5 or 6 in the afternoon. The two of them rolled up their sleeves and gave the house a thorough cleaning. The water was supplied by Du Le from a small stream flowing outside the manor. Chi picked it back like a snail. He still looked sick. He used to have pretty good physical fitness. After training at the military academy, he could climb a high mountain in one breath. But now his body has not recovered yet. He was panting like a leaky box after carrying a load of water. In the end, Bai Jianchun couldn't stand it anymore and took over his water-carrying responsibility. The two of them were busy cleaning the house, and searching for usable quilts, dishes, and other things in other buildings. They didn't tidy up the room until 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. At least it looked like someone could live in it. In the open space outside the utility room, the two of them sat on 2 wooden piles after a cleaning battle, resting and replenishing their energy by the light emitted by several origin stars in the sky. I can't hold it anymore. After Du Le drained a bottle of nutrient solution weekly, he couldn't control his eyelids that always wanted to fall down due to his own thoughts. He said hello to Bai Jianchun and shook his head. Staggering, he returned to the house in the dark, ignoring the damp and musty smell of the quilt and slamming it onto the small bed, sleeping like a dead pig in an instant. When Bai Jianchun heard the snoring coming from inside, the corners of her mouth twitched. Then she pulled open her mask and took out a bottle of bitter melon-flavored nutrient solution from her pocket, pouring it into her mouth without changing her expression. The huge manor fell silent as Du Le left. There were dilapidated and decaying buildings everywhere. The evil wind blowing from nowhere made the wooden boards creak, and there were also a few faint screams. There are many shadows around, making this place more and more eerie and terrifying. If Du Le hadn't been so tired that he fell into a coma, he might be hiding in bed shivering now. Bai Jianchun pulled the corner of her mouth and thought in boredom, then she simply sat on the wooden pillar and squinted her eyes, and began to practice the daily circulation of wood-type superpowers in the body. This is a method she discovered based on ancient martial arts to improve wood powers. She doesn't know that it is different from the training methods of superpowers in the interstellar world, but she knows that this is the right path for her. Although the original body was the master of Muyuan Star and had unique qualifications in wood-type superpowers, she was promoted from C level to S level in just 1 year. Bai Jianchun thought it was because of her cultivation method. It worked. As for her previous refusal to admit that there was a special shortcut to improvement in front of Shen Bian, It was of course because it could not be passed on to others. Although this method was used to improve wood-type abilities, it complemented the Xiantian jade needle she cultivated in her body, and the two were indispensable. Belongs to her unique cultivation technique. Most people don't have the understanding to understand the complex relationship between ancient martial arts and wood-type abilities that are complementary and independent of each other. If they practice at will, problems will definitely occur. After all, both ancient martial arts and wood-type abilities are independent systems and exist in the same body. If the primary and secondary relationships between them are not properly controlled, it is likely to lead to conflicts and collisions, commonly known as going crazy. With a smile on her lips, she closed her eyes, and the huge wood element in her body was released, spreading out inch by inch, and began to capture the wood elements remaining in the air. The wood source star is indeed the initial birthplace of the wood element, and there are more remaining wood elements than on the main star. Time passed, and suddenly, she felt the sound of ghosts crying and howling coming from the mountain behind the manor to the west where the wood element was strongest. "It's the vegetable thief that Ye Yang said." Bai Qianchun opened her eyes suddenly, and a cold light flashed across her eyes, which were as bright as stars. Now she is the star master of Jupiter, and this is her territory. These people dare to sneak in, which is a provocation to her. Originally, she planned to wait for a rest tonight and deal with these people tomorrow, but now that these people have appeared, there is no need to wait for tomorrow. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luziyi. Chapter 44. There was a coolness in the dead night, which dispersed the hot breath of the day. Bai Qianchun's steps were light and agile like a civet cat from the utility room surrounded by stone buildings all the way to the entrance of the manor. The big iron door creaked slowly open with an air of age and decay. As soon as she took a step forward, she met two pairs of black and white eyes with surprise. Ye Yang, who was scratching his head at the door and wondering how to get in, suddenly lit up his eyes and shouted in surprise, "Sister Chun, is this Sister Chun?" The dark clouds blocking the sky moved away, and the 5 source stars shone with a faint brilliance. Bai Qianchun's little face without a mask was also exposed in front of 2 pairs of eyes. Fair and delicate and soft, this face is 50% similar to Bai Qianchun in her previous life, especially the round peach blossom eyes with raised tails and cold and charming look, and the dark middle the cold and oppressive look in his eyes made Ye Yang, who was still muttering in his heart, suddenly feel his confidence surge to 99.99, and he couldn't help but blurt it out. Leng Xiao, who was 1 step behind, was stunned for a moment, then looked towards her with eyes full of expectation. Under the faint light of night, Bai Qianchun's already soft face looked even softer. The corners of her cherry-pink lips were slightly raised, and after scanning their faces, she smiled generously at them. "Ah, little son, being, long time no see." The familiar title reminded the 2 teenagers of memories from the ancient martial arts world. Ye Yang, who was called Little Son, smiled very happily, but the smile that a certain 2-cake comrade had just raised couldn't be held back, and it turned directly into a paralyzed and indifferent face. Isn't it because he was young and ignorant and sold himself for 2 pieces of cake? This black history will be difficult to get over, right? Bai Qianchun showed him a kind smile. "Ah, this is the familiar being." Ye Yang couldn't help wagging his tail and rushed over excitedly. A pair of small tiger teeth showed their sharp corners. His eyes were bright and he asked, Sister Chun, have you recognized us a long time ago?" Bai Qianchun rubbed his furry head with itchy hands, feeling deeply the benefits of growing taller. Even with her current height, it was much easier to brush her hair. A pleasant smile overflowed from the corner of her lips unconsciously, and she said casually, "Yes, I almost recognized you when I first saw you. After all, you called me Two Pies by name, and you know that I have never shown up in the interstellar. I have experienced golden needle acupuncture, and the two things combined can no longer be described as coincidences. Yang was chirping in frustration. It was the same reason that being analyzed after digging him out of the bed just now. Was he the only one who didn't notice it? The smile at the corner of his mouth dropped, but he did not forget his skills as a flatterer. He raised his hand and waved his fist twice and shouted, "Sister Chun is mighty, Sister Chun is smart, Sister Chun is 1.8 meters tall." At this point, his voice suddenly got stuck, and he suddenly realized something and turned his head, his eyes widened, his pupils trembling. "Chun, Chun, Sister Chun, have you grown taller?" Baikin Chun's delicate eyebrows raised, and a big smile immediately appeared on her face. "Yes, I am now 1.67 meters tall, and I have grown 7 centimeters taller." Wow, tears of envy flowed from the corners of his mouth. Yang had a sour expression on his face, and then he immediately came over eagerly, looking like a puppy touching porcelain, and bumped her shoulder with his shoulder. It was cute. Zixi asked, "Is it true that Sister Chun said before that there is medicine that can help me grow taller?" Bai Chun glanced at him with a faint smile. "As long as you listen to me, 99% of the time you can do it, unless you are a genetic dwarf." Yang immediately beamed with excitement. "That's great. My parents and grandfather are both tall and thin. There is definitely no hereditary dwarfism in our family. Finally, I don't have to be called dwarf by being anymore." He restrained himself for a moment, then came over and asked, Sister Chun, how tall do you think I can grow? Can I catch up with being and grow to 1.9 meters? Bai Chun couldn't help but twitch the corners of her mouth. "Your wish is too lofty. I made a preliminary estimate based on your current height. Even if you use the bone-enhancing pill, you will be at most 1.8 meters. Yang was a little disappointed, but soon cheered up. 1.8 meters, just 1.8 meters. It's much better than my original 1.73 meters. In the future, together with being station, we can be called Tuzuzi. You no longer have to worry about people ignoring my appearance because of my height. Being, please be happy for me, brother." Leng Xiao glanced at him with disdain, walked up to Bai Chun and asked in a deep voice, "Is Sister Chun coming out so late to find us?" "That's not the case." Bai Chun's smile faded slightly, her eyes drifted a little, and she looked away from his eyes that looked over at him with a hint of admiration. "Ahem, I noticed something moving behind the hills to the west. It's the vegetable thief you talked about during the day, so I wanted to take a look." "What, vegetable thief dash?" Yang suddenly jumped 3 feet high, no longer caring about the issue of growing taller. His thin and handsome face showed an expression of indignation, his eyes were looking around like searchlights, and he was yelling. He said, "Where is it? Where is it? Sister Chun, please take us there quickly. All the vegetables and fruits that Erbian and I worked so hard to grow have been stolen by these chickens and dogs. Stealing rations is equivalent to killing people. I will definitely knock their heads off to see if they dare to steal food again." Leng Xiao's cold face immediately became serious, and his cold eyes also had the light of "I must blow their heads off." The two of them had no doubts about their Sister Chun's keen detection ability, and they immediately planned to capture the person boldly. Bai Chun didn't want to keep those people overnight, so she led the two of them towards the back mountain. On the way, she asked uneasily, "By the way, have you two started practicing ancient martial arts again? Have you recovered, how many %?" This. The two young men paused in unison, with embarrassed expressions on their faces. Yang scratched his head and said distressedly, "Sister Chun, when I possessed this body, he was already a wood-type superpower. My ancient martial arts can't coexist with it. Now I can only practice fists and kicks. The kung fu techniques are completely inoperable, and I vomit blood as soon as I practice them." Leng Xiao also nodded sadly with a straight face. Apparently he was in the same predicament. "Sister Chun, How did you combine the ancient martial arts with the wood power? As one of Baikin Chun's closest teammates in her previous life, Leng Xiao knew that she was different, and she did not hide it deliberately. They all knew that their military advisor not only knew ancient martial arts, but also had a natural ability. Powerful ability to induce plant growth. After traveling to the interstellar world, he realized that this ability was called a superpower. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luziy. Chapter 45. Bai Qianchun also paused slightly and frowned. Both the wood superpower and the Xiantian Jade Girl Needle I practiced have gentle attributes, and the Jade Girl Needle is a medical skill and is compatible, so the two are not the same when practiced. There isn't much of a conflict, but you two are different. One is Qiangjing and the other is Thunder Technique, but neither of them is a fuel-efficient lamp. Ah, what should I do? How about I change the Xiantian Jade Needle like you? Sister Chen Yang gritted his teeth and stamped his feet, deciding not to be shameless. To be honest, he really feels that the superpower is not as useful as his ancient martial arts. What can he do with his D-level wood superpower now? It can only stimulate the growth of a few small green vegetables, and the battery life is still seriously insufficient. After a wave of output, it becomes unable to continue. It feels like the body has been drained, and then it becomes a waste. Although he was a behind-the-scenes worker in an organization in his previous life, he occasionally went to the front line as the main force to kill everyone. Now this weak superpower is completely inconsistent with his majestic desire to be a big killer. N.A. Leng Xiao is a fire-type superpower, but his situation is slightly better than him. He has a powerful attack power, and because of the existence of the fire source star, he has only been here for a year, and he has already practiced the fire-type superpower. Level Crazy Demon has been promoted from D to B. It can be said that the progress is quite rapid. But Leng Xiao is also not very satisfied, because people with superpowers are generally long-range attackers. Although their superpowers are strong, their physical fitness is not strong. He is used to tempering his body with the thunder art, and he is not very satisfied with his current weak chicken body. And no matter how hard he tried to strengthen his body and use external skills to temper his body, he was still not as good as the ancient martial arts thunder technique. At this moment, after he heard Yang's idea of risking his life, he first glanced at him with disdain, but when he looked at Bai Qianchun, there was also a trace of desire in his cold eyes. If he can also practice this technique, Xiantian Jade Girl Needle will be Xiantian Jade Girl Needle. Although the name is a bit girly, the body tempered by Sister Chun using this set of techniques is also very powerful. Seeing that the two stupid children were reluctant to change their gender in order to become stronger and gain skills, Bai Qianchun helplessly raised her forehead and said, "Don't be anxious yet, wait for me to think of a solution." Yang and Leng Xiao immediately settled down obediently. Just as they never doubted Bai Qianchun's keen detection ability, they never doubted her medical literacy. She said that if they find a way, then 9 times out of 10 they will be able to do it. Successful. The three of them were talking while walking along the roadside. Unknowingly, they had climbed over a small slope and were getting closer to the place where Bai Qianchun had just explored. "Ah, don't come over, don't come over. Ouch, the pervert grabbed my ass, Gangzi, boss, you guys should make a humming noise, don't leave me alone." Shut up you idiot, you're yelling shit, you think you didn't die fast enough? Damn it, I'm being targeted too, help me. Bai Qianchun and the other three were stunned when they heard howling, and frightening voices. They looked at each other, adjusted their breathing in a tacit understanding, kept a vigilant attitude, and quickly ran forward. They didn't stop until they were going downhill. I saw a strange white mist covering the place where the mountain Col was originally. It was even more clearly visible to the naked eye under the light of the 5 source stars. The sounds of howling ghosts and howling wolves came from there. However, Bai Qianchun narrowed her eyes and observed carefully. She did not see the shouting figures. The thick white fog isolated them, which fully demonstrated what it means to only hear their voices but not see their people. But in the blink of an eye, she saw a heavy and majestic building appearing in the white mist, like a huge city. She was suddenly surprised. Is it a mirage or a reality? The breeze blew by, and the shrouded white mist seemed to disperse a little, and the plaque above the grand and solemn city gate became faintly visible. Bai Qianchun looked intently and was distracted by the powerful, simple, and thick 3 words Zhenlongqing above. Zhenlong City was a place assigned to the ancient warriors by the senior officials of the Wu Kingdom in the previous life. Originally, she, like all the ancient warriors in the ancient martial arts world, thought that the senior officials of the Wu Kingdom had acquiesced to the existence of the ancient warriors and had given them a separate area. Such a big area. But then a nuclear bomb shattered her fantasies and hopes. It turned out that the reason why Dragon Suppression City existed was because the top brass of the Wu Kingdom had planned to wipe them all out from the beginning. Those greedy top brass still couldn't tolerate the killing power. The existence of the ancient warriors who changed the situation, even though the ancient warriors in Zhenlong City chose Wu country at that time, turned the tide of battle for them countless times in the battle, and helped them establish a new country. They were always dissatisfied with the ancient warriors in the ancient martial world. Full of fear. Zhenlong, Zhenlong. From the name of the city, you can get a glimpse of the thoughts of the superiors. They were in the chess game at the time and did not see clearly. The only thing Bai Qianchun was lucky about at that time was that when the nuclear bomb fell, the eldest sister and the others happened to accept a rebate mission to help the old, weak, sick, and disabled, leaving only her, Erbian and little son in the city. Garrison. Sister and the others should not have been affected by the nuclear bomb, and they should still be alive. Holy shit, what the hell? Ye Yang spoke suddenly, which also brought back Bai Qianchun's thoughts that were flying to the past life. I saw Ye Yang holding Leng Xiao's arm, pointing towards Bai Wu with round eyes, shouting loudly, "Suppressing Dragon City, it's really Dragon Suppressing City, have you seen it, 2 loaves?" Leng Xiao stared straight at the city gate, frowned, and nodded solemnly, "I saw it." Bai Qianchun raised her eyebrows and looked back at the huge city in the white mist. She pursed her lips and said with a calm expression, "Let's go in and take a look." "Ah, go in." Ye Yang was dumbfounded when he saw Bai Qianchun walking forward. He swallowed, his voice trembling, "Really go in, Sister Chun? Don't, it's so late at night. There must be something strange about Zhenlong City emerging from the white mist. Maybe we have seen a ghost. It is possible that this is a ghost city. We must be blinded by ghosts now." Bai Qianchun turned her head and looked at the man who was mumbling in silence, "You have to believe in science." Leng Xiao took out his arm that was being held tightly and glared at him with disdain, "There are no ghosts in this world. Don't scare yourself." Ye Yang didn't believe it, and continued to wrap it around Leng Xiao's arm like an octopus, and said plausibly, "We have experienced such bizarre things in time travel, why are there no ghosts? And those food thieves are also orthodox, the interstellar people, they also shout that there are ghosts." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 46. While they were talking, the 3 of them, 1 in front and 2 in back, had already arrived at the gate of Zhenlong City. As if feeling that an old friend was coming, the heavy and simple city gate slowly opened with a dull sound in the silence, silently welcoming him. Ye Yang immediately became speechless, his face tightened, and his expression was serious, but the hand on Leng Xiao's arm never let go, and the pinched blue-white fingers proved his nervous and anxious mood at this time. Bai Qianchun and Leng Xiao also put on solemn looks at this time. Whether it was the smell of blood and mud emanating from the city wall that they could smell with their noses, or the thick sound when the city gate opened, it all proved that they were in front of them. Dragon Suppression City is not an illusion or a mirage, it is the Dragon Suppression City they are familiar with. The three of them walked back to back and tacitly walked towards the city gate in the most familiar fighting posture. This dragon-suppressing city, which was closely related to their previous life, appeared here strangely. No matter what, they had to investigate it before they could feel at ease. Even Ye Yang, who was talking about the ghost city, was scared, but he still had the idea of finding out in his heart, and he also held a trace of expectation and fantasy. Is there any secret hidden in Zhenlong City? There is such a thing as a shuttle passage between the two worlds as written in the novel. The young man who had been poisoned by novels for a long time in his previous life couldn't help but have ambitions in his heart. Maybe he really has one. The current interstellar life is stable and war-free. It is the dream home that everyone in his team hopes for. He does not want to have it all to himself. He wants to pick up his eldest sister and the others to come with him. As they walked into the city, familiar streets appeared in front of them. The main street, which used to be bustling with traffic and bustling with people, still had many vendors even at night, selling weapons, martial arts, and livestock. It was very lively, but now it was completely silent and silent. Even the ghostly cries and howls of the vegetable thieves disappeared without a trace after they entered the city gate. The whole city seemed to be shrouded in a grey mist, and there were no people on both sides of the streets, leaving only stalls. Sister Chun, look, this street is in a mess, many stalls have been overturned, and the things placed on the stalls are also very messy and randomly rolled to the ground. Something seems to have happened here that scares everyone. At a loss, he ran away in a hurry. Ye Yang's serious analysis. Ye Baijian frowned and looked around, while replying quickly, this place should be maintained as it was on the day the nuclear bomb fell, but all living things have disappeared, leaving only dead things. Her eyes fell on the stall selling livestock nearby. The chickens and ducks in the bamboo cages had disappeared, leaving only chicken and duck feathers. There are also vegetables missing. I remember that this is the exclusive position that NCAI got by beating several vegetable sellers in a single fight in the martial arts arena. She usually comes to set up a stall after exercising in the early morning. Now the vegetable basket is there, but the vegetables in it are gone. Leng Xiao walked to the other side of the stall, looked down at the things under the stall, frowned and said, "No, there are still vegetable roots and vegetable gangs left." "What?" Ye Yang hurriedly walked around the stall and came over. He saw that there was a cave behind the wooden stall that was hung with linen. Under the stall, there were all vegetable roots and vegetables, piled up like a small mountain. And there was fresh mud on the ground, as if NCAI had just shaken it off from the vegetable roots. "What's going on?" Hearing this, Bai Qianchun walked through several vegetable stalls that she was familiar with, and sure enough, she also found the vegetable roots and cabbage leaves left behind, as well as some fruit cores, rotten vegetable leaves with wormholes, and other vegetables. In summary, the rotten, spoiled, inedible, and unpalatable items are all left behind. She had some vague guesses in her mind, but she didn't say anything. She just pursed her lips and continued to walk forward faster. In front of her was Uncle Lee's delicatessen shop, which specialized in selling roast chicken and roast duck. It can be said that in Zhenlong City its reputation spreads widely, especially its roast duck. For this reason, everyone gave Uncle Lee a vulgar nickname, Roast Duck King. In this regard, Uncle Lee smiled very happily. Because he has gained a reputation, many young girls have set their sights on his son, the heir, because of his skills. The coke-loving Uncle Lee and his wife couldn't smile from ear to ear all day long, and they were almost spoiled for choice when it came to choosing a daughter-in-law. Bai Qianchun is also fond of this roast duck, but her team is relatively poor. She only occasionally pools money to buy some during New Year's and holidays. After she treats people's illnesses, she will also bring a roast duck after receiving a high treatment fee. Or go back for a cheaper roast chicken, and then accept the rainbow farts from your teammates. The happy memories of her past life came to mind one after another as she stood in front of Uncle Lee's deli. But when she looked at the gray sky again, she realized that these were just memories, and the beautiful memories had long since passed away. Sister Chun, what did you find? Ya Yang and Leng Xiao chased after her and saw her stopping at the door, and couldn't help but become wary. The two people carefully leaned forward, stretched their necks, and looked inside. But Danger didn't see it, but at a glance, he was attracted by the several roast chickens and ducks hanging in the shop waiting for sale. The roast chickens and ducks were bright red and shiny, and the outer layer of skin was used by Uncle Li. The crispy skin baked on charcoal is still glowing with golden color, as if the hot aroma is waving to them. This time, not only Ya Yang's eyes glowed green and he swallowed exaggeratedly, but even Leng Xiao couldn't help but his Adam's apple rolling, his eyes staring straight at the ruddy roast duck. I have to defend myself here. It's not that Leng Xiao and the two are hopeless, but that life is too difficult, and even ancient warriors have to sigh. 2 months before they died in the ancient martial arts world in their previous life, their team had just spent nearly 90% of their team's savings on rescuing a group of old, weak, sick, and disabled people who had been affected by the war and escaped from the war zone. So during those 2 months, they could only survive by eating chaffy vegetables. Even though Leng Xiao's cooking skills were amazing, they couldn't cope without the ingredients, so their food was naturally poor. After traveling through time, although his life was better than that of Ya Yang, and his cheap father was a top-notch chef, he still had the same reason of not getting the ingredients. Although they can be self-sufficient in vegetarian dishes on Wuyuan planet, they cannot be self-sufficient in meat. There are only 7 or 8 chickens and ducks in the whole village, and their family has nowhere to buy them even if they have money. Moreover, these poultry belong to a collective and are raised by everyone, so how can their family be embarrassed to buy them? As for the wild animals, there was no need to even think about it. Since the source of Jupiter was extracted a year ago, all the animals on the planet seemed to have disappeared. He and Ya Yang visited the surrounding mountains. But not even a rabbit was seen. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lan Shan Luzi. Chapter 47. Therefore, Leng Xiao has been a vegetarian this year, and his cold face almost turned green when he ate. Except for 2 bites of meat during a festival, he never had a bite of meat at other times. Now that these huge and powerful roast chickens and ducks appeared in front of him, he couldn't help but want to cherish them. To be honest, even if you really change your career to become an immortal, you can't bear to be a radish that grows all year round. What's more, he is also a complete carnivore. Hey, that's not right. These roasted chickens and ducks are really still steaming. Ya Yang was drooled by these fragrant little goblins. Bai Qianchun walked past the door and walked into the store door. His eyes were shining all the way and he was drooling. He touched the fireplace and was confused again. Stretched out his hands. This scene, the scalding heat of the roast duck brought him back to his senses. His eyes immediately widened and he turned to look at the 2 people who walked in from the door in surprise. Sister Chun, Being, come and touch it, this roast duck is really hot, piping hot, just like fresh out of the oven. Sister Chun Leng Xiao couldn't suppress the excitement in his eyes, and he tried his best to remain calm and turned his head to look at Bai Qianchun. Yes, Bai Qianchun responded in a low voice, pursed her dry lips, and moved her eyes slightly. It seems that my guess is correct. The time of the city was stopped on the day when the nuclear bomb occurred. What about those dishes? It should be that someone or something sneaked into Longzhen City before us. It didn't like to eat meat and preferred to be vegetarian. Hearing this, Ya Yang and Leng Xiao stopped staring at the meat, and their faces immediately became alert. What could be coming in? Could it be those vegetable thieves? No, they have been roaring and ghosting for most of the night without finding the city, and we can't hear their voices after we come in. It can be seen that Zhenlong City and Wuyuan Star its two spaces. Then what kind of opportunity does it take to enter Dragon City? Could it be that someone like us was bombed in Dragon City and then traveled through time? Ah, it could also be some kind of small animal. The ones eaten on the stalls outside are all lettuce. There was too little evidence at the moment, and they couldn't figure out who this person who came in earlier than them was after discussing it for a long time. Bai Qianchun reassured them, "Don't think too much. It shouldn't be a bad thing. At least it only eats vegetarian food and doesn't eat meat." As she spoke, she had already walked to the fireplace, and then she picked a roast duck off the hook, carefully put it in her hand and looked it up and down, poked it with a clean silver needle, and then poked it with a wooden needle. After checking his abilities, he handed the roast duck to Leng Xiao. "This stuff is good, non-toxic, and harmless. I've checked it. The meat quality, taste, and heat are the same as freshly baked roast duck. You can eat it with confidence." A flash of surprise flashed in Leng Xiao's cold eyes, but he quickly calmed down and refused with a strong expression, "No, the safety hazards in this city have not been eliminated yet. We can't waste time here until we can fully investigate this place. It's not too late to come and eat again." As he spoke, he stretched out his hand and hung the roast duck back on the hook. The fingers holding the iron hook turned white, and veins appeared on the wrist bones. It can be seen how much perseverance he used to resist this extreme temptation. But Ye Yang next to him didn't have so much perseverance. His year in the interstellar was much worse than Leng Xiao's. The cheap mother in his body had no other ability except to give birth. Now the family has he is the sixth of 8 children. The 5 brothers and sisters above all followed the other star citizens to work on Tuyuan Star, and only he and Zioki and Zioba were left here to serve as Chen Huan's children. Although the 5 brothers and sisters all have extra money, they can't help but talk too much. They spend a lot of money outside and have very few things to send home. And now he is the oldest child at home, so food and clothing must be provided to the elders above him, while at the same time saving money for the younger brothers and sisters below him. The time travel and clothing he has had to endure is too oppressive, and even eating it's hard to have a full meal, so I usually have to follow Leng Xiao to eat a few bites of vegetables, barely enough to stay 6 cents full. If Bai Qianchun didn't come, he had already planned to go out with his brothers and sisters to work as a wage earner next year and see the world. Do you believe he can still restrain his desire for food after a year of being a poor boy in this situation? The answer is of course impossible. Just when Bai Qianchun said that the roast duck was okay, Ye Yang stretched out his hand almost seamlessly and quickly grabbed the thief's hand to the roast chicken hanging next to it. He pulled off a roasted chicken leg with all his strength. The golden crispy skin was torn open, revealing the tender red chicken meat inside, and a rich and mellow chicken aroma penetrated the mouths and noses of the 3 of them impatiently. The appetite suddenly surged in the mouths of the 3 of them. Even though Bai Qianchun had gotten a VIP card on the starship before and the food was good, including big fish, meat, porridge and side dishes, she could not resist the delicious and nostalgic temptation now. Seeing Ye Yang grabbing the chicken leg and starting to devour it, his mouth was full of oil. After finishing the chicken leg, he grabbed the whole chicken and gnawed it. 2 minutes passed and nothing happened to him. Bai Qianchun and Leng Xiao looked at each other. "How about we check it out while we eat? I've used the wood-type supernatural power to detect it. There is no doubt that this place is basically a dead city. There is no danger found in the 3 surrounding streets." Bai Qianchun swallowed restrainedly. Drool suggested. Leng Xiao frowned, but his control had completely collapsed. He nodded stiffly under Bai Qianchun's gaze and Ye Yang's mischievous eyes. Then the 2 of them each picked up a roast duck and continued shopping and patrolling while eating. They were much more relaxed now than when they first entered the city, and their walking postures seemed to be at ease. Seeing this, Yang quickly spit out the chicken bones, took out a roast duck from the hook, and chased after him. "Wait for me, wait for me." Bai Qianchun held a chicken wing in her mouth without losing her composure. She glanced at the roast duck in Yang's hand and said, "You are not afraid of spoiling your stomach. You have been a vegetarian all year round and now you are eating meat and fish. It's so greasy, I have to go to the toilet at least 3 times a day." She definitely doesn't dislike someone for eating too much, it's just a common, well-intentioned warning. Yang didn't take it seriously. He grabbed the duck leg and took another bite. He said with a slurred smile, "Sister Chun, don't you have Jianwuxiashi pills? I won't be afraid after taking one." "But I didn't rub this thing." She didn't have enough to eat on the starship. "What's the use of this thing?" Even the blood and chi replenishing pill she gave Yechiang before was just a precaution after she boarded the starship. A temporary rub. Yang still smiled fearlessly. "Hey, if there is no one, we can go look for him now. Everyone from Zhenlong City has come with him, and Sister Chun, your pharmacy must have come with him. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs." Author, Lan Shan Luzi. Chapter 48. Bai Qianchun's eyes suddenly lit up and she yelled, "Let's go back to Ziwutong first." Bai Qianchun raised her oily little mouth, with a cheerful smile on her pretty face, and turned to another street. In the previous life, Zhenlong City was considered to be an independent world outside of the troubled times. It was also called the ancient martial arts world by the outside world. Most of the people living there were ancient warriors, whether it was Aunt Cai who set up a stall selling vegetables or had the unique skill of roasting duck. Uncle Li is a hidden master. And where there are people, there are rivers and lakes, especially when everyone is powerful and no one wants to succumb to anyone else, the more disputes there will be. Therefore, there are many conflicts within their ancient martial arts world, and many forces, large and small, are divided into them. But the most famous ones are Wutong Tower, Bai Martial Arts Hall and Lin Family Martial Arts Hall. Bai Qianchun and his team belong to the Wutong Tower. The original Wutong Tower was actually a killer pavilion, and the leader of the pavilion, Wei Xian, was the one who built the killer pavilion. According to someone who did not want to reveal his name, Wei Xing, the master of the pavilion, is a widow. She was abandoned by a heartless man and her daughter died, so she rebounded from a gentle and beautiful beauty in a white dress to a murderous person. The Devil in Red. Her original intention of establishing the killer pavilion was to avenge the betrayed man. To this end, she took in many orphans with excellent bones and trained them to become the killers of the killer pavilion. The eldest sister of their team is one of the few accomplished killers, and she is also the number 1 among the gold medal killers. The eldest sister's name is Su Lianhua, codenamed Shuelian. She is a woman who is particularly dashing when killing people and is very naive in other aspects. Ever since Pavilion Master Wei Sun succeeded in killing the heartless man and renamed the killer pavilion to Wutong Tower, their eldest sister Su Lianhua seemed to be tired of her career as a killer and became Buddhist-like. It was at this time that Bai Qianchun was picked up by the eldest sister, and then she picked up the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th children one after another, becoming a killer team in Wutong Tower. Of course, the killer pavilion, which has changed its name, is not a vegetarian from now on. It still does the job of a killer, but the owner is not so controlling and only allows them to compete within themselves. For this purpose, they were divided into 7 teams, namely red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, red Wutong, orange Wutong, and yellow Wutong. Ranking at the bottom is their team, Zai Wutong. Of course, this is not because their team is weak or their business ability is not strong, but because their eldest sister has changed her mentality and changed from a murderous killer to a compassionate bodhisattva. They still accepted the mission, but after accepting the anonymous mission, they will try your best to investigate whether the poster is a good person, and whether the person who paid the murder deserved his death. If the publisher is a good person and the person waiting to be ripped off is a bad guy, then fortunately, they can complete the deal perfectly. But if it's the opposite, then it's over. There is a 100% chance that the task will not be completed, and liquidated damages will have to be paid. This is how the purple phoenix tree at the bottom came to be. Also, influenced by their bodhisattva-hearted eldest sister, other people in the team have also grown up. Usually, if they meet the old, weak, sick, or disabled when they go out to collect information or during missions, they will generously donate their money and be willing to help anyone who needs help. It is really a breath of fresh air in the killer pavilion, a white lotus in the mire, rising out of the mud. Bulletin ran, just one last step to call the charity hall is the purple industry. Naturally, their strange killer team has become the last one in the Wutong building all year round. They live in the most remote and humble Zai Wutong building in the Wutong building. Bai Qian-chun grew up in a laboratory. In fact, she doesn't have much kindness or conscience. It's just that the eldest sister who picked her up has good intentions, and her teammates who are regarded as her family are also good people, so she also then came the human touch. Although I was annoyed that my eldest sister and her friends were spending money so lavishly, just like a team of boys who scattered money, they were still willing to make the team's logistics purse, work frugally, and sell medicine and cure diseases in exchange for money to support these kind-hearted bodhisattva. We can help more people. This is also the reason why Bai Qian-chun is stingy and likes to save money. Don't be afraid of having too much money, be afraid of having too little money when you use it. By the time the three of them woke up from their memories while eating roast duck, they had arrived at the most familiar Zai Wutong building, a place that their team called home. Hiccup Yang burped loudly, threw the last duck bone he had eaten into the trash can in the corner, rubbed his stomach and looked at Bai Qian-chun eagerly. Sister Chun, I can't hold myself up, why don't we go to your pharmacy first? Bai Qian-chun glanced at him with a half-smile, which made Yang's face turn red. When she felt a little guilty, she slowly looked away. It's okay, I miss my pharmacy too. The most important thing is that a few days before the nuclear bomb happened, she had a deal with an old customer and made a lot of useful pills for stock. For example, the most common qi-building pills, blood-building pills, jianwuxiashi pills, etc. were all available in 10 bottles. Bottle preparation. And for the safety of her friends, she keeps 3 or 4 bottles of vitality pills prepared all year round. The eldest sister and the others took away 2 bottles when they went on a mission, and there should be 2 bottles left in the pharmacy. There are 10 vitality pills in each porcelain bottle. If converted to 50 million star coins each, this is 2 billion star coins. Bai Qian-chun's heart was burning, and she couldn't help but speed up her steps towards the pharmacy on the 2nd floor. Yang also laughed and shouted, Jianwuxiashi pills, here I come. But the door of the pharmacy opened, and the familiar scent of medicine did not hit my face. Instead, I was greeted by the silence of the room and scattered medicine cabinets on the floor. All the medicine cabinets on the entire wall where she used to store medicinal materials had been pulled out, and the drawers that originally stored dried medicinal materials were now empty, as if someone had ransacked the house. The smile on Bai Qian-chun's lips suddenly froze, and fire began to accumulate in her eyes. Yang and Leng Xiao, who followed behind, were also dumbfounded. Here, is this a thief? Yang's eyes widened, and he pointed at the medicine cabinet inside with trembling fingers, full of surprise. Who is so bold and dares to rob our Zai Wutong medicine cabinet? He is. Don't you think you've lived too long? What he said is not an exaggeration at all. You must know that in the ancient martial arts world, the name of their Chunja ancient doctor is well known, and it is also very appealing. Many masters in the ancient martial arts world are willing to give her a face. After all, no one can mess with doctors. We are all martial arts practitioners, and illness and injury are inevitable, so doctors are needed even more. And Bai Qian-chun happens to be the top of the pyramid among doctors, able to save lives even if they hang by a thread, which is equivalent to having a second life. Therefore, even though Zai Wutong has been paying liquidated damages all year round and has extremely poor task completion, it still has not been kicked out by the landlord. It relies on Guyi, and everyone knows that Guyi's back is her pharmacy. Anyone who dares to set up a pharmacy must consider whether he can withstand the pursuit of all the masters in the ancient martial arts world. No matter how far you run to the ends of the earth, you will not be able to escape the deadly pursuit order issued by the ancient doctor. That's why Ye Yang said that the thief thought his life was too long. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lan Shan Luzi. Chapter 49. Bai Qian-chun frowned, and her beautiful dark peach blossom eyes were half squinted at this time, revealing a bright blazing fire. The sharp ends of her eyes became narrow and sharp, with a stormy murderous intention and violence. Who dares to rob her pharmacy? At the door, Ye Yang shivered with Leng Xiok. It was not good. The big devil was angry. The rescued hostages praised it crazily, saying that the scene was extremely beautiful, with blood falling like a sad rain, which fully demonstrated what the aesthetics of violence are. More than 300 strong bandits with arms thicker than the little girl's thighs were like tofu dregs in front of her. They were broken into pieces at a touch and had no power to parry. They were often wiped on the neck or beaten before they could react. After being stabbed in the heart, the bandit leaders even had their hands and feet cut off, and it took them a long time of torture before they finally died. This battle made her a god in one fell swoop, and dispelled the rumor that their sister Chun was just a weak doctor with no power to restrain a chicken. From then on, in the ancient martial arts world, she was no longer the fragile little doctor, but a beautiful girl who could be seen at any time. The city explodes, the life-saving and wounded Overlord Flower. The awe of the masters towards her jumped up several levels. Speaking of which, the last time she got angry, she killed more than 300 bandits to vent her anger, so what should she kill this time? It seemed to Ye Yang that he and Erbian were the only two people here who could breathe, so he shouldn't kill them, no. Just when Ye Yang was so confused that he almost scared himself to death, Bai Qian-chun had already taken the lead and headed straight to the hidden compartment of the medicine cabinet. This was just in case she really encountered someone desperate, so she kept some vitality pills, and some of the most precious pills are hidden in secret rooms. He pushed open the medicine cabinet blocking the outside, reached out and knocked on the hidden compartment twice, then stretched out his hand to pull, and 2 poison-quenched hidden arrows flew towards the face. Bai Qian-chun didn't even twitch her eyebrows. She skillfully turned her head to avoid the 2 hidden arrows. Not only did she not panic, she felt calm. This is a trap created by Ye Yang. The purpose is to catch the medicine thief off guard. As long as this trap is still there, the pills there should be foolproof. Bai Qian-chun's mind was racing, her tense mouth relaxed slightly, and she immediately pulled out the second layer of the hidden grid. The scattered porcelain bottles inside made her eyes burst with anger. How can it be? Empty. All empty. The bottle she used to hold the vitality pill was empty, the bottle of the black jade purple gold pill was also empty, and the dozen or so bottles of the bone strengthening pill and the dragon and tiger pill were all empty, not even a single pill left for her. Veins popped out on Bai Qian-chun's forehead, and his gloomy face was extremely ugly. Who could take away the pills inside without destroying the mechanism? The most important thing is that he didn't take the bottle, only the pills, like it looked like it was eaten directly. After eating it directly, Bai Qian-chun suddenly focused his eyes and thought of something. Then he turned his head and aimed his eyes at a small green ant crawling energetically on the medicine cabinet. According to the conclusion they just explored, there should be no living things in this space. So where did this little ant come from? Chun, Sister Chun, what are you looking at? Ya Yang dragged Leng Xiaozhan in and walked in cautiously. Seeing that the hostility in her body seemed to have subsided a little, he felt slightly relieved. He swallowed and walked over carefully, then followed her line of sight and looked at the medicine cabinet. Hey, there is a little green ant here. The little ant stood up and waved to us to say hello. Ya Yang rubbed his eyes, opened his mouth wide, and pointed in the direction of the medicine cabinet in surprise. The little ant jumped angrily and threw a small wooden stick at him. Oh no, it was a small wooden stick in its hand, but in their eyes it was just a light white fiber. When they leaned closer to listen, they could still hear its faint cursing voice. The stupid Tulek actually said that this Protoss is a little ant. This Protoss will crack your head and plant it in the ground as flower fertilizer. Hiss, what a cruel little ant. Ya Yang covered his chest and took a breath, but the expression on his face was very excited. He turned to look at the two people beside him as if he had discovered something big, and wanted to share this interesting story. Did you hear that this little green ant said it was a star spirit? What the hell is a star spirit? Bai Qianchun squinted her eyes and took out a flashlight placed in the pharmacy and shined it at the little green ant. The little ant immediately revealed its original shape under the bright light. It really doesn't look like a little ant, it's just a tiny little person, as small as an ant, with a nose and eyes, and wearing a colorful sack skirt. It looks like a super mini figure, and you need a magnifying glass to see it. The clear kind. What people can see most clearly is its big head, which is shaped like a vegetable and is bright green. Just now under the dim sight, it really looked like a small green ant. Bai Qianchun stretched out two fingers and controlled the force to pinch it off the tilted medicine cabinet. The villain immediately screamed and struggled excitedly, waving his little arms and screaming, "Stupid two-legged beast, what do you think, what are you doing? Put this star down quickly. If you dare to hurt this star, you can't let Muyuan star recognize it as its master. This star spirit will not recognize you, a foreign soul, as its master." Bai Qianchun pinched it on the table and put it down casually. Hearing this, he raised his eyebrows and asked in a low voice, "You take all the medicinal materials and pills in my pharmacy?" The star spirit, who had just landed on the ground and was still cursing while holding the head of kohlrabi, immediately closed his mouth and moved his body with some guilt. Bai Qianchun reached out and poked it until it staggered, and said fiercely, "Tell me, is it right?" The Protoss had never seen such a bad two-legged beast before. They were stunned for a moment. Rutabaga turned her head and stared at her in shock with a pair of black eyes. "You are so rude to this Protoss." Then it became angry with embarrassment, and its little mouth roared with excitement again. "You think this Protoss is willing? It's all your fault for the original two-legged beast in your body. This Protoss thinks she is pitiful, and she has good qualifications and chose her to be a Star Lord, but she actually took revenge and drained the original power of the Star Spirit, and almost turned the Star Spirit into an elf. Now this Star Spirit can't even change into beautiful clothes, and can only wear a torn patched sack. I'm so miserable when I get older, so I take some medicine to replenish my body." Bai Qianchun's mouth twitched. "Oh, that's really tragic." It turns out that the colorful sack it was wearing was not fashion but a patch. "Ah, yes, there is indeed a little bit of sympathy. But that's not the reason why you took it without asking and took all the pills I collected. How do you think you can compensate me?" "Ah, V will be added to V on the 15th, the day after tomorrow. Everyone is ready, the extra update you have been waiting for is coming. Well, if you have time on the 15th, please come and support me. I welcome you with both hands and feet. If you have any comments or suggestions, you can write them in the comment area. Of course, it would be better if they are encouragement. I hope I can see you often in the comment area. It would also be nice to post a K emoji. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lan Shan Lu Zy. Chapter 50. The star spirit did not want to compensate, but the star spirit still wanted to resist, and said with a little plausibility, "This city fell on my star spirit's Jupiter star. It is my star spirit's thing, and I hid it. Otherwise, it would have been discovered by the star citizens, and your pharmacy would not be able to be saved, so you might as well replenish it for the star spirit." Ye Yang listened for a long time and finally understood the ins and outs. He couldn't help but came over and said excitedly, "Then star spirit, do you know how it came to Zhenlong City? Can it return to its original place?" "Yes." "Is there no teleportation channel to the original place?" The Protoss turned to glance at him, and immediately covered their eyes as if they were hurt by him. "The stupid two-legged beast is too ugly, stay away from me." Ye Yang, with tears in his eyes, he defended, "I'm not ugly, I'm just as malnourished as you." "Protoss, this breaks my heart." The star spirit awkwardly changed the subject, pretending that the conversation just now had not happened, and then answered Ye Yang's question, "How did the city come here?" "It was due to the intersection of space, the shift of the universe, and the loophole in the space layer. Anyway, it was a very special coincidence. This is a situation that will never happen in hundreds of millions of years. As for wanting to go back, you think so, two-legged, but even this Protoss doesn't have the ability to travel through time and space with a little guy like you." "Ah, so we can't go back." Ye Yang's face collapsed immediately, and Bai Qianchun and Leng Xiao, who didn't speak, were also disappointed for a moment. Star Spirit Xiao Haidian looked at him, "Are you also from another time and space?" Bai Qianchun raised her eyebrows and glanced at the little thing. "You can see that my soul is from outside, why can't you see his?" The Star Spirit immediately put his hands on his hips and said fiercely, "He has not contracted with me. How do I know? I only respond to the selected Star Master. Every selected Star Master has a double contract with this Star Spirit, both body and soul. I still don't know whether she is dead or not. This Star Spirit felt it when I saw you. The body is the Star Master I originally selected, but the soul contract is gone, and the power of time and space still remains in your body. It must be that the foreign soul has not escaped." Bai Qianchun's eyes flashed. "Oh, so speaking of which, a semi-contracted person like me is still considered a Star Lord. Speaking of which, your Jupiter star is so broken right now. It doesn't even have more than 100 star citizens. It's really difficult to develop. If I weren't the Star Master, I wouldn't have to worry about all this trouble. I can go back to the main star and continue my life. It's a good life with a big bed and a big room." While Bai Qianchun was mumbling, he glanced at the little thing on the table. "Oh, I really want to get a magnifying glass to see what its expression is now. By the way, I also have a very rich husband. He is said to be the richest man in the universe. He gives me pocket money every month. If I return to the main star, I will let him support me, every day." Before he finished speaking, the Star Spirit grew wings and jumped up anxiously. He said with indignation, "No, no, no, you are the Star Master I like. You can't run away. I thought of compensating you for the medicinal materials. We renew the contract." As soon as it finished screaming, it quickly turned into a stream of green light, so fast that Bai Qianchun was caught off guard, and it hit the center of her eyebrows with a swish. Ye Yang and Leng Xiao's pupils shrank greatly and they shouted anxiously, "Sister Chun." But at this time, Bai Qianchun could no longer feel the sounds of the outside world. She only felt a cool stream spreading from the center of her eyebrows, flowing along her neck, heart, arms, and legs. Converging eyes. The dark pupils were lit up, and the emerald green light ignited in her eyes. She opened her eyes suddenly, and a soft green energy burst out from her body, forming circles of green halo with her as the center. Visible to the naked eye, spreading outward and sweeping away. As the greenery spreads out of Zhenlong City, its true meaning begins to emerge. The green ons blew by, and the cracked land without any weeds was instantly soaked with vitality, and the seedlings worked hard to break through the ground and grow. When this small seedling, which symbolizes the coming of spring and the resurgence of vitality, breaks out of the ground, it also proves that Muyuan star, which has been dormant for a long time, has begun to wake up. Then, cute little green seedlings appeared one after another near the seedlings. They were looking forward to life and growth. They seized this opportunity and used the strength they had accumulated for several years. Then they began to stretch, grow, and grow. Big leaves. This wave of greenery full of vitality only stayed for a moment and then quickly spread in all directions of Jupiter, spreading the message of vitality to the entire land. The strong men trapped in the white mist outside Zhenlong City and Yechin, who sensed something was wrong and chased him out and stood on the hillside, also saw this shocking scene. A pillar of strong green light soared into the sky, carrying the fairy music played and sung by thousands of plants, as if the charm came to the world, and then the green light on the light pillar spread out in circles, symbolizing the strong greenness of the recovery of nature. Once upon the Jupiter star. Yachin's old eyes looked at the scene ahead with surprise, and his hands and feet were trembling with excitement. This brilliance seems to be more intense and dazzling than every time he has seen a star master recognize his master before, and the wood source element contained in it is even more incredible. Even the star master he admires most, Zhenqiu, cannot compare. Just by standing here at a close distance, he could feel the wood element in his body surging. The realm of supernatural powers that had fallen had begun to loosen, and he had a youthful vitality and a feeling of spring again. Yachin couldn't care less about the group of infiltrators who were still in the white mist, and immediately sat down cross-legged, feeling the gift bestowed by Muyuan star. Every time the Star Lord signs a contract with the wood source star, there will be an explosion of the wood element. This is the best opportunity for them, wood-type superpowers. But didn't the Star Master conclude a contract with Muyuan star a year ago? Why did it happen again now? Or is this another opportunity after restarting Muyuan planet? These doubtful thoughts flashed through Yechin's mind, but he was soon distracted by the wood element that reached the critical point in his body. He quickly put his thoughts away and concentrated on breaking through the supernatural power. In addition to him, all the star citizens with wood element powers in the village were also awakened by this wave of strong wood elements. Others also woke up. They walked out of the door one by one in surprise and raised their heads in the direction of the light pillar in surprise. Look! The spreading green vitality of the beam of light had already blown over the fields cultivated by the star citizens. At this time, the seeds they had just planted during the day began to grow wildly, growing bigger and bigger. Quick, look quick, they are dying, they are going to be unlucky. Star citizens widened their eyes and looked at the wildly growing crops in their fields in shock. Fenyu, I caught my wife. Yes, I am the richest man in the universe. I will also give you pocket money every day. Don't stay on that little broken star on Muyuan. My husband will love you when you come back. The star spirit put its hands on its hips and was furious. You stupid two-legged beast dares to covet the star master of the star spirit. Little Venus, come quickly and take your two-legged beast back. Jinyuan Xingling waved the flag and shouted, Star Lord, quickly snatch the star owner of little Jupiter and lock him up, I support you. Protoss, little Venus, you traitor. Jinyuan star spirit, my star master is good looking, so he and I belong to the same country. Star spirit, oh, you nymphomaniac little golden spirit. Author, it will be on the shelves tomorrow. Everyone, come and snatch Wenwen back, hide it in the bookshelf and lock it.